That's where we're going to go today, Daniel chapter 3. Now, what we're going to read about is King Nebuchadnezzar he was the king of Babylon, and he raided, we'll talk about it in a little bit, but he raided, Egypt came in and wanted to fight with them, so he raided Egypt, he beat Egypt, and he ran back, and he captured Jerusalem in the process, and we'll talk more about that later. But what happened was King Nebuchadnezzar made a statue, and the statue was 9 feet wide by 90 feet high, and it was made of pure gold. A lot of Bible scholars think that it was a statue of himself. And he said whenever the music would play at that moment, wherever you were, whatever you did, you had to stop and get on the ground and worship that image of gold. Well, being servants of Yahweh or God, the God that we serve, the God of Israel, these three gentlemen that we're going to talk about today decided that they were not going to bow down and worship an idol, that they served a living God, and they were not going to trade a living God for a statue. And so when they told the king that they would not do it, he got frustrated, and he went and told them that if they didn't do it, the penalty was to be thrown into a furnace and basically burned alive, which sounds really unpleasant, but yet these guys chose to not listen to him. And so when he found out that these three men did not do it, he called them, and we're going to pick up the story at verse 16, and this is after he's already addressed the three of them, and they're going to address him back starting in verse 16. Are you ready for me? Amen. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to answer you in this matter. If that is the case, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us from your hand, O king. But if not, let it be known to you, O king, that we will not serve your gods, nor will we worship the gold image that you have set up for us." In other words, what they're saying is, first of all, mind your business. We don't got to tell you why we do what we do, because we serve God. Secondly, I'm not worshiping your statue. And third, God will save us. But even if God doesn't come down and save us, we're still not going to do it, because we know that what we're doing is what's right, and then we're not going to be peer pressured into worshiping your idol. Verse 19, then Nebuchadnezzar was full of fury, and the expression on his face changed towards Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And he spoke and commanded that they heat the furnace 7 times more than it is usually heated. And he commanded certain mighty men of valor, soldiers, warriors, who were in his army behind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that they cast them into the burning fiery furnace. And then these men were bound in their coats and their trousers and their turbans and their other garments, and they were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because the king's command was urgent and the furnace was exceedingly hot, the flame of fire killed those men who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these three men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, if you don't know their names, you'll know them by the time we get through this verse, because it says it like 450 times. They fell down bound into the midst of the fiery furnace. Then King Nebuchadnezzar was astonished, and he rose in haste and spoke to them and to the counselors and said, "Did we not cast 3 men into the fire?" And they answered and said, "True, O king." "Look," he answered, "I see 4 men loose and walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt, and the form of the 4th is like the Son of God." Your Bible might say like the Son of the gods. What's important is that he's noticing an idolatrous king is noticing the deity standing in the middle of the fire with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And so that's where we're going to talk today. That's what we're going to discuss. And we're just going to talk about one simple subject, the fight for freedom. The fight for freedom. Let's pray. God, I thank you for what you're doing. I thank you for your hand over our lives, and I ask that as we join together today and we get into your word, that you would speak to us. God, that you would use me as only you can to bring your word out and to get us closer to you. So God, we give this service to you, we honor you, we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. The freedom you walk in is because of the fight you have walked through. Freedom does not come easy. You know, it's Independence Day weekend, and so we're getting ready to shoot fireworks, and we're getting ready to do all these things to celebrate, and we're going to get on the grill, and we're going to cook some stuff. And so we're going to do all this stuff to celebrate. And for some people, it's just like we get an extra day off of work or an extra couple of days off of work, so we're happy about that. But freedom is something that has a very high price tag associated with it. In the case of Our freedom as a country, it came by soldiers going and fighting and dying in battle because they wanted to be free from something they felt was holding them back. And so freedom is a very real thing that we can possess, but it doesn't come without a fight. There's always a fight attached to your freedom. There's always something when you're trying to get out of a trap that wants to hold you back in. Freedom is something that everyone is looking for. Everybody wants to be free. Nobody gets up in the morning and says, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go find the biggest, most uncomfortable object I can find, and I'm going to chain myself to it, and then I'm going to get through the rest of my day with that thing attached to me, and I'm going to drag it around, and I'm going to carry it, and I'm going to put it in a wagon, I'm going to do whatever I got to do to go through my day because I just want to be chained down by something. Nobody does that. We want freedom. We want liberty. We want peace. We want hope. We want a future. So we're all looking for the same thing. But the problem with freedom is you can't truly be free until you understand that you're first stuck. You cannot be free until you understand that there's a trap. And so that's where we find ourselves. Being stuck can happen fast. It can come out of nowhere. The 1 minute you're doing good and everything's going the way you had it planned out and everything is working, and the next minute you're stuck, you're trapped, you're chained down to something and you don't know how you got there, but now you got to move forward and you got to deal with it. See, I used to survey a while back, and when I was living in Marion, if you go down 69, you'll see the Ivy Tech campus that's right there on the Marion exit. There's the Ivy Tech campus there, and I surveyed that campus, and so they could build it. We went out and did all the surveying for it, and so at one point, the building was partially up, so you couldn't see with the instrument where it needed to be, and so we had to go around the building because we were staking out where the parking lot was supposed to go. And so we got everything going, and there was so much stakes that we had to put in the ground that we decided I'm just going to get in the truck and I'm going to drive from place to place. That way I have everything with me and I can just hammer it in and we're good to go. So that was great. It worked out real good. We did the whole front of the parking lot, me and the guy I was with. We did the second half of the parking lot. It was a big parking lot. It took a long time. And so we're going, we're cruising, we're staking everything out, we're getting it done. And we're like, man, we're going to finish this day early. It's going to go good. Everything's going to work out great for us. And we get around to the back and everything's going good. We try to go to our last spot that we had to do for the day, and it was like we just hit a hole, and the truck sank up to the bumper in mud. No, I'm talking about sank. I ain't never seen a truck stuck like that in my life. That joker was buried in the mud. I couldn't even see the two front tires. It was like up by the headlights, and I'm sitting there thinking, how in the world am I going to get this out? So I did everything I could think of to do. I got a shovel out. I started trying to dig the truck out, and it didn't work. I tried to get some wood and put behind the tires and try to back it out over the wood, and that didn't work. And the guy I was with, he goes, all right, I got an idea. Let's put stuff behind the tires, and then I'll get in and put it in reverse, and you get in the front and you push. And so because I thought that was such a great idea, I decided to do that, and I got in front of the truck, and I pushed this truck with everything I could. I took my shoes off. I was knee deep in mud. I mean, I was in a tough spot. And then not only did the truck get stuck, but I realized we were not getting the truck out, and now I was stuck in the mud, up to my knees, unable to get out, and he had to get out and help me. Because when you're stuck, the more you struggle, the more you sink. And so when you find yourself in life going through different things and you think, how am I going to get out of this? I'm just going to throw my arms around and I'm going to push with all my might and I'm going to do what I can. You can't do that. You're just going to end up sinking deeper into what you're in than you were when you started. And so I also noticed that when you get stuck, it takes twice as much effort to get you out of a place you should have never been in the first place. I should have never took that truck off the road and put it where I put it. And because of my actions and my choices, I was stuck. And that's a place that I think a lot of us find ourselves today. Maybe you're not stuck today. Maybe you just got out of the thing you were stuck in. Maybe you're living free and everything's good. Maybe your life is going so great you've never been stuck and this doesn't relate to you. If that's the case, then just push pause and hold on to it for a minute, because eventually in life you will find yourself stuck and you will need some encouragement at some point to get out. So what I'm here to tell you today is it doesn't matter how much you're stuck, how deep you're in, if you keep pushing and keep trying and keep following God and letting Him lead you, He will pull you out of what you're into and He will set you back where you need to be. You know what got the truck out? A tow truck. Because I needed something I didn't have to get to a place I should have always been. And that's what God does in our life. He sends a spiritual tow truck to come to us, to pull us out of a place we never should have been, to put us back on the place where he never intended us to get off of. I never asked you to get off this road. You're supposed to be doing this and following me and honoring me and living your life for Jesus, but instead you got off the road and you decided that you're going to go over here and you're going to do this. And maybe it's not your fault. Maybe you're like me and you grew up in a family that didn't go to church, and so you grew up not going to church and you didn't know nothing about it because it's not what y'all did. That's how I was. But then the minute I realized I was stuck, I cried out to God and said, God, I need something to get me out of what I'm stuck in. I need something to get me out of this bondage. And he sent the truck that I needed to pull me out and to get me back to where I need to be, where I was meant to be, where I was created to be. There's something inside your life that God has created, that God has specifically put inside of you. And yeah, other people might be able to do it. Kenny, there's other people that can sing, but God put a voice in you that nobody else has. And it might not be the Stevie Wonder voice, but it's certainly not the Jonathan voice, so you're good to go. You use your gift the way that God intends you to use it. And that's what God does in your life. He pours something into you, so that when you're stuck, you can use what God's put in you to get out. If you're a worshiper, then God put worship in your heart so that when you find yourself stuck, you use worship to get out. If you're a studier or a reader, God put a Bible in your life so that when you find yourself stuck, you can get into that word and you can find your way out of what you're stuck in. If you're a very relational person, God gives you a family, a church family, friends and relatives that you can go to, that you can say, I'm stuck in this area and I need help and I just need a way out. And God says, well, that's what you have them for. And you go to them and they help you and they pull you out of what you're stuck in. And that's what we are designed to be. We are designed to be free. We are never meant to be stuck in something. We are never meant to be trapped in something. We're meant to be free. Have you ever been stuck? Ever been stuck? Ever been stuck? Well, I've been stuck sometimes. I mean, stuck. There's a couple areas. Have you ever been stuck financially? Where you didn't understand how you were going to pay your next. I can remember sitting down and we didn't know how we were going to pay our bills. We didn't know how we were going to pay for our car. We didn't know how we were going to even feed the kids. And so sometimes we would just sit down and we would make the kids some ramen noodles and like put a hot dog in it just to fancy it up, restaurant style. And so we do whatever we had to do and we would let the kids eat. And then we would just sit back and just hope that maybe if they didn't eat it all, we could have something to eat too. Or we would go make a sandwich and we would give them something nice because we only had enough to feed them, and we would eat whatever we could have. We could have a bowl of cereal. There's been times that we didn't understand how we were going to get out of something, and we did it anyway. But you get stuck financially and you're working 60 hours a week and you're working 2 jobs and you don't know how you're going to pay the electric bill because you're financially stuck. Sometimes we get there because of choices we made. Sometimes we get there because of choices we didn't make. But one way or another, we find ourselves stuck, and we got to get out. What about stuck in addiction? I'm stuck doing something that I never intended to do, that I never meant to start. And addiction doesn't always mean drugs. If you're sitting here thinking I'm talking about a drug addict and you're like, I don't do drugs, I'm good there, that's not just addiction. You can be addicted to anything. You can be addicted to good things. You can be so addicted to reading your Bible that reading your Bible takes time away from your ministry in life. And God said if you focus so much on just reading, then you're not taking what you're reading and applying it to freeing the people that need freedom. And so you're addicted. You're bound by something that's keeping you away from God's plan. Addiction is something that everybody struggles with, everybody deals with, everybody walks through at some point or another. I'm addicted to my husband. I'm addicted to my wife. I'm addicted to my children. I'm addicted to this substance. I'm addicted to alcohol. I'm addicted to Pepsi. I'm addicted to scrambled eggs. It doesn't matter what you're addicted to. If you're addicted to something that pulls you away from what God put inside you, addiction destroys your purpose. Addiction gets you stuck. Addiction gets you trapped, and you're locked in with no key. But you're stuck in anger. Well, you don't know the things I've been through. You don't know the people I dealt with. So how are you going to stand over there and tell me about being stuck in anger? You ain't walked through where I've walked through. That's true, I haven't, but you ain't walked through what I've walked through either. And what I know to be certain is that when you walk through some stuff, it's only the right relationships. It's only the right relationship with God that will pull you through it and will say, I know they messed you up. I know they did you bad. I know they hurt you. I know they did you in a way. I know what happened back there, but if you would just let me. God would say, if you would just let me. If you would just let me put you on the potter's wheel like in Jeremiah 18, and you would let me fill the cracks in your life, and you would let me heal what's broken in your life, and you would let me do new things in your life, but instead you're just going to focus on being stuck in anger. And now nobody else will be good enough because of that person. No, you can never listen to another pastor because your last pastor hurt you. You can never trust your new wife because your last wife cheated on you. That's how we get stuck in anger. And being stuck in anger will stop us from God's perfect plan in our life. It will stop us from freedom. The fight for freedom is real. It's a real struggle. It's something that we all deal with. Freedom is not something that we can just go walk into. It's not like we can go to the supermarket and we can say, excuse me, where's your freedom? It's aisle 7, right here. Aisle 7, right next to the happiness. If you don't find it there, go to aisle 3. It's going to be located right over there by the bread. That's not how you get freedom. You get freedom by understanding the liberty that God put in your life. You get freedom by understanding the sacrifice that someone else made. I've never been in the army. I've never been in the military. I've never fought in a war. But I live in the freedom that somebody else paid for every single day of my life. I was not at Calvary. I did not see Jesus. I did not walk with him, talk with him, or witness his miracles. But I live every day in the freedom that he provided on a cross, embarrassed and ashamed and broke down and beat up because of what he did. I have what I have. It's all because of what happened back there that I can have freedom up here. That's where we find our freedom. And we get mad at people. And we get mad at situations. And if I can step a little deeper, we get mad at God. And we say, God, it's your fault. You did this to me. I've done nothing but serve you and honor you, and I've done nothing but try, and I've done ministry, and I've been there, and I've helped people, and I've let people cry on my shoulders, and you were not there for me when I needed you. This is your fault. How could you take my mother, my grandmother, my friend? How could you take these people from me? How could you do this? I'm trying to do the best that I can for you. And this is what you do to me. And if we're not careful, our anger and resentment towards God will become an anger and resentment towards ourselves. And then our anger and resentment towards ourselves will just cause us to go into a depression. And it will cause us to be less than what God created us to be. And we won't care about ourselves, so we certainly won't care about each other. And we're not going to care about God because we're mad at God. And it's a cycle that we get trapped in. And you don't even realize you're trapped. And you don't even realize you're running in circles until you're on lap like 457. And then you're like, hold on, I've seen this tree before. And you realize I'm in circles. I'm trapped in circles. I'm trapped going around and around and around and around and around. And I don't know how I got here, but I'm trapped. And I know if I try, there's got to be a way out of this trap at some point or another, but I'm stuck here now, and I just want to know, why am I going around and around and around and around in circles? Because you're locked in to a trap. You're locked up with no cuffs. You're locked up with no bars, and even worse, you're locked up with no visitors, because you cannot visit somebody you don't know is in prison. You cannot go to somebody that you don't know is trapped. You cannot go to somebody that you don't know is stuck, and all of a sudden something happens and you go, well, what happened to Jerry? All the while, Jerry's been stuck for the last 7 years, but he's been trying to work it out himself. Jerry's not stuck, just so you guys know. I'm just using Jerry because he's my man and I love Jerry. So stuck. How did I get stuck? We lock ourselves in our own prison relationally and emotionally and mentally. We beat ourselves up and we tell ourselves things like, you're not good enough. You cannot do it. No one will ever love you. No one will ever need you. You're not pretty enough. You're not fit enough. You're not, no, shut your mouth. I am exactly what God needs me to be to do the job that God needs me to do. If I needed to have more hair, he would have gave me more hair. You know what I'm saying, Ashley? But this is what he gave me, so this is what I need. We have what we have because God put it inside of us for a purpose. And God only puts things in that he plans to pull out later. He doesn't put stuff in to leave it there. We live our lives physically free, but spiritually shackled, chained up, locked up, beat up, willingly entrapped into our own mind. Some people are stuck in life, but they're stuck because they don't know what they need to do to get unstuck. So let me give you a little story. This week, we're helping Pastor Josh move. And so we're doing what we do, and my man right here, Tim, he calls me, he texts me, he says, hey, what are you doing? I say, oh, I'm over here helping Josh move. He goes, where are you guys at? I'm going to come over and help you. I said, all right, here's where we're at. I didn't even tell him where. He was like a detective from a whole nother level. Like I gave him a vague description of town, and he shows up. He's like, boom, here I am. I don't even know how he did it, but he did it. And he starts helping us, and we're moving, and see the elevator, and they lived on the third floor, which is a design of Satan, but they lived on the third floor, and so most of the stuff, I was like, I'm just going to go down the stairs because I ain't trying to deal with that elevator. And so they eventually, though, we had to take the elevator, and so we're going different ways and doing different trips, and Tim comes back up, and he goes, I have to tell you guys something. And I was like, did you break something? I mean, I don't care. It's Josh's stuff. Let's just hide it. No. But so, sorry. He goes, no, I got in the elevator and I pushed the button I got in the elevator to take stuff down to the truck, and I thought, man, this elevator is taking forever. And he goes, then I realized I didn't push the button to go down. I just got in the elevator and stayed there. And the only reason I can feel good about telling you that story about Tim is because later I did the same thing. And Tim did it by himself. Nobody had to know, but I did it with him standing there. After he'd already told us the story, I'm in the elevator, and I'm standing there, and I'm tired, and I'm leaning on something. He goes, you got to push the button. And I was like, but sometimes we find ourselves stuck because of stuff we did or don't do. And we're wondering why we're not going to a new place because we're not pushing the right button. We're not getting in the right relationship. We're not hanging with the right people. We're not living the right way. We're not doing something that would put us in that new place. Instead, we're going to always be stuck on the third floor because we don't know how to get to the lower level. In this case, we want to get to the higher levels. We want to get to a new relationship with God, a higher place with God. We want to go to places we've never been. We want to see things we've never seen. But it all starts with knowing how to get there first. And you cannot move forward when you're chained to something back here. So what do you do when you're stuck and it's your own fault? You just stick with it? You just keep pushing? You just keep going? Because I promise, with the funniness of the humor of the story of sitting in an elevator, both of us would have sat there all night because that elevator wasn't going to move unless somebody hit that button. But when it comes to your life, you don't just sit there. You push forward. You do what you got to do. I was in that elevator one time, that same elevator, and it made went, I don't even know what it did, but it made this real weird noise, and it like shook, and I thought I was going to die. And so I was like, one way or another, I'm getting out of this elevator. I will get up through the roof, and I will Jason Bourne this thing right up the cables. I will climb. I will do what I got to do. I'm getting out of this elevator. I'm not staying stuck and trapped in this elevator to die, because I'm not even that really claustrophobic. But when I thought I was stuck, suddenly that elevator that was already small started feeling like it was even smaller. I was like, I don't know how to get out of here, but I'm going to get out of here some kind of way. When you're stuck, you just have to make the provisions and make the decisions to move forward, not to stay still. You have to keep going. We focus on what is temporary, but God will use our pain as a platform to get to our promise. God will use our pain that we're going through. And you look at me and you say, you have never seen what my eyes have seen. You can't talk to me about pain. You don't know what I've been through. God does. God knows what you've been through. God knows all about the abuse. He knows all about the pain. He knows all about the past relationships. He knows all about your lack of trust. He knows all about your addictions. He knows all about your bondage. And you can't get to a place where you look and you say, God could never want me. God could never use me. God could never need me. Because I promise you, if he's got me here, standing here talking to you, then he can use you too. Because I was a mess. But God seen a mess and he said, I want to use you to do something different. He seen a mess and he said, I want to take you from where you're at and put you in a new place. I want to take you from being stuck and open you up to a new level of blessing. I want to take you from bondage and put you into freedom. And it was only because I chased after God and I didn't stand still and I didn't get weaker that I found that God used my pain in my life as a platform to share it with God's people. I've been through some stuff. I've seen some stuff. I've dealt with the pain. The kids will tell me all the time, they'll say, Dad, I've never seen you cry. And that's for a couple reasons. One, because I grew up without a mother, and so I was the oldest of my brothers. And pain, you didn't show people pain. If you had to cry or you had to get emotional, you turned it into anger, and you just fill in the blank. You did what you had to do. But the second reason is because I try not to deal with the fact that I've been through so much pain, and I try to focus on positive things. I try to focus on getting past pain. Pain is temporary. You'll all deal with pain. We'll all deal with pain. You'll go through things that you think you can never get past. I will never make it through this. I will never be able to get on the other side of this. And you just keep pursuing God, and you keep dealing with what you're dealing with, and God will take you from where you're at to where you're going. He will get you around your pain. He will get you through your valley. He will get you away from everything that's holding you back, and he will walk you into perfect freedom. I've never seen you cry, Dad. There's no reason to cry. God is too good to me. I'll go through the pain, I'll go through the struggle, but I know that God is so good to me. Because if you knew what I was doing back here, if you knew the fire that God brought me through back here, if you knew the way I was almost drowning back here, the fact that I can even stand here and speak good sentences, halfway good sentences, and talk to you and share God with you and love you through whatever you're going through, the fact that God would use me in the smallest way is a testament to the fact that I will push through pain and I will keep going and I will keep moving forward, and nothing will hold me back because of who God is in my life. Pain cannot stop me. Fear cannot stop me. Sadness cannot stop me. Anxiety cannot stop me. I don't care what the enemy throws in my way. I don't care what the enemy tries to knock me down with. I will get back up 1,000 times, because if God is with me, nobody else can stand against me. And greater is he that is in me than he that is in this world. And there is nobody that can rise up against me if I have the right person in my corner. And God is in my corner each and every day. The journey of a diamond does not start with value. If you found a piece of coal, you would probably just throw it away. But a diamond comes from a piece of coal that's gone through pressure over time. Pressure will take something that's not valuable and turn it into something that's extremely valuable. And so you're walking through the pressure right now, and you're thinking, why am I going through this? Because God is going to take what you don't see value in here, and he's going to turn it into something very valuable up here. You have to beware. You have to go through some pressure at times for God to take some of the rough edges off of you, for God to take some of the broke down things that you've been holding on to, for God to take some of the issues that you've been trying to struggle with. Pressure will remove what happens in your life, and it doesn't have to happen without a struggle. It won't happen without a struggle. You will face some issues to get where you're going. And that's where we find these three fellas. In the pain of being stuck. They were captured and they were taken away from their home. Quick background. This is where we're going to talk about the background. Jehoiakim was the king of Jerusalem at the time. Jehoiakim was not put there by God, and he was not put there by Israel. He was put there by the Pharaoh of Egypt. And he was put there because they had always shown loyalty to Egypt. So when Egypt raided Babylon, and Babylon fought Egypt and won and pursued them all the way down to the river, they captured Jerusalem, not because of who Jerusalem was, but because of who Jerusalem was with. Sometimes God puts you in captivity, not because of you, but because of who you're running around with. Think about the people that you hang out with. Think about the people that you spend your time with. Maybe you think that your life is not the blessing it could be. Maybe it's time to reevaluate your circle, because if the wrong people are putting you in the wrong place at the wrong time, there's going to be a chance that you don't need it and you're not ready for it. True freedom comes with time. True freedom comes with God. True freedom comes with understanding that He will do it when He's ready to do it. But they were trapped, they were taken to Babylon, and they were kept there. Now, I will say that it wasn't all bad for them, because Daniel got them all a promotion. And Daniel got them all into leadership positions. And so when the king had told them to worship and they didn't worship, it wasn't just that they were ignoring his command, it was that they were supposed to be leadership. So now everybody's going to undermine the king, because if the leadership won't do what the king says to do, then nobody else has to do what the king says to do. And a lot of Bible scholars believe that when the king said to heat the fire up 7 times hotter, it wasn't to increase more pain, because I don't know if you understand this, but when you burn, you burn. It doesn't... The heat of the fire doesn't change the fact that it's still burning. It was to burn them quickly and minimize their pain, because they had a relationship. And he had to make an example of them, but he wanted to do it in the most humane way. How many people know the fiery furnace is not very humane? If I ever am in that position, like, let's go a different route. I'm not really feeling that. But that's where they were. They left their relationship with God. They left their identity. They left who they were and conformed to what was around them. And we think that if we don't do what everybody else does, and if we don't act like everybody else acts, listen, I love to come in here on Sunday and to dress nice and to look nice for you. I love it. It makes me feel good about me when I can throw it together and come in with my nice suit and stuff. But I'm not ever. All these other churches think that you have, in order to be a successful church, you have to do away with the podium and you have to get yourself a little table, right? Which would be bigger than this. We're just going to use your imagination. A little table instead of this, and we're going to have our laptop open, and we're going to have our little coffee cup on there. Hold on, let me get my coffee cup right here. Remember we talked about? You got to have your coffee cup on there, and you got to do what you got to do, and then you got to kind of walk around like this, and you got to wear your skinny jeans and your boots that are laced all the way up to your knees, and like they come all the way up to here, and they're like wrapped around your leg 100 times, and you put your Kanye West shirt on that like goes down to your ankles, and there's holes all in it and stuff, because then you look really cool. And then you can really do some ministry, Gabe. You have to really look like that before you can really get into some ministry. And so I just want you guys to know, that's not what I am. That's not what I will ever be, because I'm already chubby. You put me in some skinny jeans and I look 6 times chubbier. So I'm not even with that. I'm just going to continue to do what I do. See, the suit slims me down a little bit. The vertical stripes, they keep me looking. I'm not with that, and so I'm not going to conform to what everybody else is doing just to try to look apart or be apart. I'm going to go ahead and be what God's called me to be. I don't need to be what everybody else is. I don't need to do what everybody else does, because I'm not trying to find everybody else's liberty. I'm trying to find what God has for me. When I find my freedom, then I can lead somebody else to freedom. But while I'm still bound, I cannot take nobody anywhere. And that's where we are at today. I'm going to knock this over, so let me try to slip that right out of the way. Jesus said to Peter, "Who are you to call unclean what I have made clean?" Who are you to call unclean? So if it works with clean and unclean, it works with free and not free. Who are you to look in the mirror and call yourself bound when God has called you free? Who are you to look in the mirror and call yourself worthless when God has called you worthy? Who are you to look and say anything other than what God has called you to be? No, you can't do that. And the Bible said, Jesus said that when the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. I like that because he takes it beyond just being free. He takes it to free indeed. Indeed is ontos. It's a Greek word. It means full or real. It means it's a point of fact. It's not a negotiation. What he's saying is you will be free for real. You will be free in fact. Your freedom is not up to negotiation. Your freedom is not limited by on if Ashley says you can be free or not. Your freedom is free for real. It is free indeed. You are not bound no more. You are not struggling no more. You are not suffering no more. It is real. It is a point of fact. In fact, Psalm 124:7 says, my soul has escaped like a bird from the snare of the fowler. It means that the person who set the trap to catch me, he had me for a little while, but now all of a sudden, because of who Jesus is in my life, my soul has been set free. The cage door is open. The chains are gone. I can move forward in freedom. I am free like a bird. The snare is broken, and we have escaped. Yesterday, we was at Lifeway. And I was walking around with JJ, and JJ seen a book, and it triggered something in his mind. It said, I don't remember what it said, but it triggered something in his mind. And he goes, so Dad, so we're going to live forever? Like forever? And I said, yeah, forever. He goes, well, Dad, I'm a little confused by that. And I said, here's the deal, JJ. Your body, who you are right here now, will not live forever. But inside of you, there's a soul. And in that soul is eternity. That soul will go on forever. It will either go on in heaven with God forever, or it will go on in hell in punishment forever. One way or another, what's inside of you will live. And I said, the way you understand that is because in Genesis, you'll read these words. God made man in his own image. That means the soul that's inside of you is connected to the soul of God. The spirit inside of you is connected to the Spirit of God. And who the Spirit sets free will be free indeed. I have escaped. I have escaped. Birds are meant to fly. And so it is with us. We're not meant to be stuck on the ground. We are meant to soar to new levels and see new places and do new things and experience life while we're here. And the whole time, honor God and tell everybody we can about His goodness in our life. Man, if you could just see some of the things that God has brought me through. Oh, but don't let it be about me. If I could see some of the things that God has brought you through. If I could see you guys hiding in your bondage and in your trap, I might know a little better about your freedom. But if you could see me hiding in my fear, in my pain, and in my insecurities, you would understand my freedom, because my fear is only a gateway to my freedom. My fear is not meant to stop me. It's meant to promote me to a new level. I use my fear and get past my fear so I can get closer to my future. Stan Mikita was a hockey player, and he used to get in a lot of fights. And when he would get in a lot of fights, his daughter asked him one day, she said, Daddy, how are you going to score goals when you're stuck in the penalty box? And that's how it is in our life. How are you going to score goals? How are you going to have a win for Jesus if you're always stuck in penalty boxes, if you're always stuck in your shame, if you're always stuck in your fear, if you're always stuck in what keeps you back? How are you going to live the life God called you to live if you can't get past the penalty box? We're going to look at a few things and we're going to shut it down. I'm going to give you 3 things about this passage that will lead to your freedom. 3 things that lead to freedom. First of all, the fight. We have to go through the fight. Everyone has in them what is called a hyperarousal, or better known as fight or flight. Everybody has that in them. And it is geared to keep you safe. It is geared to make you, to survive any issues that you go away. Either your survival mechanism is to fight or it's to run to safety. But one way or another, that trigger is your survival mechanism. That is what it's there for. And when activated, a series of nerve cell firing occurs, and chemicals like adrenaline or cortisol are released into your bloodstream. And that is how you fight. It's not funny. I don't know this stuff. I had to actually write it down. I had to study. I had to do that. so cats are laughing at me. It's released into your bloodstream, and that will determine what your response will be. It will either be to go stand up and fight, Me. Or it'll be to run away. Not me. So you can just think about it like this. Either I'm a confrontational person, or I'm not. No, not you, her. Anybody that's known you for 10 minutes know you're confrontational. Let's be honest. It's a love confrontation, though. It's love. It's love. It's love. Moving on. Anyway, that's what you have in you. Some people have a strong flight. Some people have a strong fight. Neither is wrong. They both do the same thing. The reality is we face a fight. We face a struggle. The enemy wants us gone. He does not want us to take another breath, because the moment we take another breath is the moment we have one more chance to tell somebody else about Jesus, one more chance to eliminate his plan for this world, eliminate his plan for humanity, because we focus on something that is bigger. We focus on a God that is stronger, that there is no fight that the enemy can bring against us that will win because of who is inside of us. We have a God that will stand in our corner, that will strengthen us when we need strength, that will build us when we need built, and he will always lead us to the victory when we let him lead us. We have to be able to focus on the fight and not let the fight take away your focus. Like Peter walking on the water. His focus was gone and his fight struggled. There's a lot of things that we face in our life. Been through bankruptcy, man. Take the focus off my good stuff and put it on my fight. I've been through 7 divorces. I'm not going to look at the good. At some point, you have to think, maybe I'm the one that's doing something wrong here. If you've been married 7 times, let's stop blaming everybody. Everybody else wasn't the problem here. Luckily, I'm still on number 1. So if I can keep Chastity tricked for the rest of our life, then it'll work out good. We focus on the wrong thing, and it destroys our ability to fight. It destroys our ability to do what we need to do. And it takes everything that we have that we've built up, and it takes it away, and it makes our weapons useless. The second thing is the fire. The fire, verse 22 through 25. Therefore, because the king's command was urgent, the furnace was exceedingly hot, and the fire killed the men around Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. The fire. The fire is an interesting thing. See, people fear fire. Some people enjoy fire. But everybody knows what fire is. Everybody has a respect for fire. Don't touch that. We used to tell the kids when they were small, Chastity used to tell them, don't touch that, it's hot. I said, well, let them touch it. They're only going to do it once. Then they'll know. Don't touch it again. She never let my plan work. She always warned them ahead of time, which is probably the right thing to do. But, there's a respect that you have for things that can hurt you. There's a respect that you have. It can be used to create. It can be used to destroy. In some of us, it's a good thing. The fire motivates us. It sets us on our path. But in some of us, it's not a good thing. The fire is where you are because you lost your realest love, or you cried your deepest tears, and now you're stuck in fire, and you don't know how to get out, and you're trapped in the furnace, and the door is locked, and the walls are too high, and you're stuck there, and you just want to get out of the fire in the furnace, but you don't have to be forced into a furnace to understand the effects of the fire. The fire of God can be a couple different things. First of all, the fire is focused. It knows when to burn and when to keep things steady. The fire is focused on what it has to do. The people around them were burnt up while they tried to destroy them. In other words, God is saying when other people try to throw you in the fire, they're going to be more preoccupied getting themselves out of what they're trying to put you in, because you're going to have a blessing around you. You're going to have somebody with you that will keep the fire off of you. But the people that are trying to push you down, the people that are trying to show you you're not good enough, those are the people that God will burn off in one way or another. Those are the people that will have people who come against you. People who talked down to you, people who have taken your joy, people who have made you feel insecure and told you all the negative things you've always heard. Those are the people that God is going to eliminate from your life one way or another. Do you know why? Because the fire of God inside of you will burn so hot and it will burn so fast that anybody who comes against you with negativity will immediately get hit with the conviction of God to say, I can't touch them, I can't talk to them, I can't deal with them. They are protected by God and by His Word, and I have no power over them. The fire is focused. The fire will wake you up. But the second thing is the fire is not final. The fire is not final. 24 and 25, then King Nebuchadnezzar was astonished, and he rose in haste and spoke to the counselors and said, didn't we cast 3 men into the fire? Wasn't there 3 of them? Oh yeah, King, there was 3 of them. We tied them up good. They ain't getting out. Trust me, they're in there. And he goes, no, I know they're in there. I can see they're in there. But the problem is they're not tied up no more. And there's another dude in there now. That's not in the Bible like that. It's not worded quite like that. But there's another guy in there now. What do you mean we threw 3? King, you were standing right here. Maybe it's one of the bodies of the guys that you saw that the fire killed and he fell. No. They're walking around. And the 4th one looks like the Son of God. There's something about the power of God that when you're in the middle of your fire, in the middle of your furnace, you have to understand that it's not the end for you. The fire is not final. There is something so much greater that will walk you out of the fire. So much greater that will get you past what you're dealing with. Numbers 31:23 in the NIV says, anything that can withstand the fire must be put through the fire. If God has you in the fire, you have to understand that it's because he knows you will come out. God doesn't put you in the fire because he wants to see you suffer. He put you in the fire because anything that can make it through the fire must go in the fire. Why am I here? Why am I going through this pain? Because there's something God has for you on the other side of your fire that is greater than anything you could imagine, that will lead to the ultimate freedom. But you have to get through the fight to get to the fire, and you have to get through the fire to get to the freedom. The last thing is the freedom. The freedom. The freedom to stand strong in your struggles. God will strengthen you in your struggle. The freedom is what we have when we get through the fight and through the fire. When we're weak, he is stronger. Let me read to you verse 26, 27. I'm going to give you just pieces. Nebuchadnezzar went near the mouth and called them out. He said, come out of there. Obviously, you guys are not bound by the fire, so come out. And these jokers just walked out. Did you call us? Because we was in there hanging out with Jesus. Did you need us? Yeah, hold on. I got to figure this out. How are you jokers in there just walking around like there ain't no problem? Oh, because, did you see that other guy? He's more powerful than you. He can do things that you can't do. He can protect what you tried to destroy. He can build what you try to tear down. He can do something in my life that nobody else can do. So I'm not really, I told you from the beginning, dude, that you were not going to get us and we were not going to serve you. So it looks like, in my estimation, I was right, you were wrong, gotcha. That's probably not the way he said it, but if it were me, my sarcasm probably would have took over a little bit. But then my favorite part. Verse 27. They saw these men on whose body the fire had no power. I don't think y'all heard that part. They saw these men on whose body the fire had no power. No power. That's not even my favorite part. The hair of their head, don't talk, was not even singed. I would have no problem with that. Nor were their garments affected. It didn't even burn their clothes. God's going to protect you so much that the things that are on you won't even get burned. This is my favorite part. This is my favorite line in the whole story. You ready for it? And the smell of the fire was not even on them. Why is that your favorite part? Well, because God is so good that when God gets a hold of you and when God takes you through the fire, the people won't even know that you've been there. He will do something so good in your life that they won't even be able to tell that you've been through the fire. They won't even see any burns. They won't smell no smoke. He is so good, and the freedom is so real that it doesn't just stop there. He keeps it going and going and going like the Energizer Bunny of freedom. He just keeps going. He keeps pouring on new freedom and giving you new things and pouring out new blessings and taking you to new places. And once you get to a place where you're so far away from the fire and people go, how are you doing? It's nice to meet you. And they go, yeah, it's great. It's good. It's nice to meet you too. And then they say, so how have things been for you? Oh, it's been good. And they don't even know unless you tell them that you've been through the fire. They don't even realize what you walk through, because God creates such a blessing, such a protection, such a path to your purpose around you that people will never identify you by what you've been through. People will only identify you by what you're standing in. And as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And as for me and my house, we will live in freedom. And as for me and my house, we will promote Jesus as long as we can. Go like this. Ready? Take a deep breath. Now, God allowed you to do that. And when you let it out, God allowed you to let it out. Everything that we do is God-given for one purpose: to tell everybody we can about the God who protects you in the fire, the God who protects you in the pain, the God who wipes away all your tears, the God who gets you through all your loss, the God who stands high on the mountain of victory, calling for you to come up and be with Him and to live with Him, not just for now, not just until you're 100 years old, but forever. JJ, I said forever. All right, forever. What's inside of you will live forever. I'll give you one passage and we're going to pray. Galatians 5:1. Stand fast, therefore, in your liberty. Liberty means freedom. Stand fast, therefore, in your liberty, by which Christ has made you free. Where does your freedom come from? One place: Jesus, right here. What He did right here. Yeah, this is nice, cool strings and lights and stuff, but no, there was a real one. There was a cross where our freedom was bought. There was a cross where our pain was bore. And there was a cross where Jesus died so we could live. Not just now. Say it with me. Forever. Let's pray. God, I thank You for everything You do. I thank You for Your word. I thank You for Your anointing. I thank You for everything, God. I pray right now that as we stand here in Your presence, that You would continue to speak to Your people. As we leave here, You would continue to speak to Your people. And everything that we do, we would just honor You. We would lift You up, and we would thank You each day for a new breath, for a new life.